It appears we're all out of the breakout rooms now, and they were great sessions. I hope you enjoyed those. It's now my great pleasure to, in the final session of the day, the panel session, and I'm going to hand over shortly to our panel chair, Annette Slunjski. She's Managing Director of the Institute of Analytics Professionals of Australia, or IAPA. Annette has been involved in data and technology for over 20 years. She's been working across change management, communications, marketing and business development in B2B organisations, and this has allowed her to combine passions in data technology and communication. Working with the IAPA board, Annette has grown the IAPA community to more than 7,500 people Australia-wide. I'll also introduce our other panellists. First of all, Elisabeth Stark, Managing Director and Head of Data Science Products at Symbolix. Welcome, Elisabeth. And Symbolix is a firm which helps people make better decisions using data. Rupert Condon from Options Consulting Group, or OCG, is a marketing and communications specialist with experience across multiple business sectors. OCG is also a partner of Ludowyke and the Melbourne's North Food Group. Darrell Ludowyke, you heard from him before in one of the panel sessions. G'day again. Chief Executive Officer of Empirics, a database company that advises corporates and others on data analytics. Empirics, of course, are a great partner of ours and have been so since the beginning of the hub. Also, David Williamson is another panellist. He is Chief Executive Officer of the Melbourne Innovation Centre, a business incubator network based in Melbourne's North. He is also Chair of Business Innovation and Incubation Australia. MIC are a partner of the hub, and also Ludowyke and the Melbourne's North Food Group. Joe Cave, our final panellist, is Head of Cyber and Digital Transformation at Victoria University, and VU are a proud partner of the hub. So if Annette is here, I will pass the floor to you.
Thank you so much. I am here in my yellow. I am going to just share my screen very quickly to start the conversation. So let me just very quickly jump to there. Okay, awesome. And I'll come back in a minute. So you just heard our panel being introduced, and an awesome panel it is. And while our panel is well versed in data analytics and digital, and how a business can snatch an unfair advantage through the use of data and digital technologies, well, COVID kind of changed that. It wasn't so much a business advantage, but maybe even a business survival, with maybe a glimmer of thriving that we actually got to when COVID was there. And as you can see, this is the cartoon that was doing the rounds at the time in terms of what is driving digital transformation. The CEO, the CTO, no, it's COVID. The panel today is all about using our combined experience and know-how to help you get started or accelerate with data and digital. So we have a wonderful mix of perspectives that you can draw from. So if you use the chat, then we will get to your questions at the end, and I'm going to stop sharing here so you can see everyone. I'll ask all the panelists to come off mute so you're ready, or ready when you wish to be. So please put your questions into the chat, and we will get to them a little bit later. But first, let me ask Darrell and Elisabeth, from your expert eye, what have been the best strategies or approaches you've seen that has helped to move business forward? Darrell, I'll start with you.
Sure. And good morning, everyone. Yeah, it's a good question to move businesses forward. I think what was happening was that people had these things on the agenda, and I think that last cartoon sums it up. COVID kind of accelerated things for people, and forced some to actually just get going. And really, that's a key. And Elisabeth and I have spoken about this a few times at these sessions, of just making a start. And what it did was focus the mind and immediately got people to think about the priorities for their business, what mattered most. You know, you think of a food organization, and what mattered most was, oh God, how do I move my stock? They had to immediately pivot to digital, to being able to order online, to get the deliveries working. And those were things that, you know, ultimately will make the business more efficient and more profitable. But so that focus on priorities and making a start is really key. And the one thing else I'll say is taking the opportunity to get the culture right in the organisation, so that everyone is on the agenda of moving towards that, what digital and data can do for you, and that everyone gets a win out of that. So they'd be the key ones, I'd say.
You mentioned culture. I mean, that takes a long time to develop. So it's not, are you thinking that COVID magically created something where everyone accepted a data-driven culture, or
no?
How
I think
does
what
it work?
did, and it focused the mind a lot. And what we find in trying to get culture, helping organisations get the culture across it, the only way it works is, it's like dealing with, with kids. It becomes a bit of a negotiation, but you need to make sure that everyone gets a win out of it, so that everyone can see the value in what you're doing, and working hard to do that. It's not, there's no magic wand to getting culture right, but it needs to be led from the top, seen to be led from the top, and seen to bring the organisation along the journey with people getting the wins.
Awesome. Elisabeth, your thoughts?
Yeah, completely agree with Darrell. And just to sort of pick up where you left off, I think one of the most concept that keeps coming back into my head when we think about remote work and we think about more flexible working, which again everyone's had to move to, is this idea of having a work out loud. So, if you're in a remote team or if you're in a flexible team, it's not enough that you have information that just lives on your desk or you're the only one that knows how to do it. Because if you have, your 7-year-old just opened the glitter box in the living room, as happened to a client of mine on a workshop the other day, you sort of need other people to be able to jump in and take over for you. And I think that goes doubly so with data. And the companies or the businesses that I've seen that have been able to kind of pick up and run with digital transformation in this time, or not even digital transformation, just actually surviving and, actually making a go of it in this time, are the ones that have been able to have centralized systems, centralized processes. And this goes back to even in we deal with some high level kind of models and stuff, but if I look at the things that I'm proud of that we did well, it's things like having a wiki so everyone knows what the processes are around data, having some centralized data systems for managing our projects and managing our finances, and having structures in place about where files live so it's not on someone's laptop and another things in Dropbox, and just these really, sometimes even for a company whose bread and butter is working with sort of the shiny end of it, the models, that kind of data management and that everyday kind of stuff, and just catching up regularly and discussing issues and working through them is, I just think, just so important just to stay afloat, basically.
Awesome. So moving from surviving to innovation. So David, people often equate data with innovation. So does every startup or scale up have to have data and digital at their heart? And what can more mature businesses learn from digital native startups?
Thanks for the question, Annette. Look, I think the short answer is yes. The more successful startups do have data at the core of how they run their business. I think what they value in terms of how they reach their market, how they manage their people. They use data very effectively. I think COVID has obviously accelerated that. And from a corporate perspective, the corporates that have been able to pivot and survive in this market are those that have had data at the core as well. So I think the concept of talking about agile and lean teams is a conversation that's 15 years old now. So corporates have been very well placed for a long period of time in terms of instilling those modes of work and those management styles. So I think the majority of corporates were very well placed, but I think the challenges were those that have been outlined so far today. So how you manage your people, how you maintain culture when people are dispersed and working from home. But there's been some really interesting examples of how corporates have managed to pivot throughout COVID. I mean, we've seen obviously hotels turn into quarantine facilities. We've also seen hotels turn their facilities into work from home spaces for employees. So you go into the hotel, you use the room, you use their broadband for focused work. I know I would have valued that at various stages. But similarly, it's validated a lot of the strategic decisions that many corporates have made over years. And you might say that some of that is dumb luck, but you look at the banking sector and the fact that they've closed a lot of their branches over the last decade. I mean, those decisions have been really validated. And I think we've seen the consumer response to that has been really fascinating as well throughout COVID. I know from a personal perspective, my grandpa, who's approaching 90, is now very comfortable with scanning a QR code and checking in when he goes to the supermarket. So we're seeing consumers adapt very quickly as well. So I think just to your graphic that you had earlier, COVID has accelerated at both ends of the market in terms of adaptation, digital adoption and adaptation.
And so, I mean, we often talk about innovation from disruptors and those that are sort of new to the market. For those that are sort of entrenched players or they've been around for a while, what did you see anything that you thought, oh, that's great, they're actually being innovative about what they're doing? Or is there, like, how do you then instill innovation into an organization that is larger and has been around for a long time and we've always done it this way?
Well, I think that's a great question as well. I think it's a long play. So it's about instilling that culture over time. And I mean, there's a lot of theory on this. It's about really rewarding risk takers, rewarding failure in a positive sense, but also investing in the long term in bringing people into your organization that have that cliche growth mindset. They have the ability to take risks. They understand the formulaic approach to innovation. So, the test, measure, learn, pivot, those classic lean and agile methods. So I think it's the organizations that have been working on these strategies for a period of time are the ones that have been best placed to respond quickly and pivot quickly throughout COVID-19. So I don't think there's any secret sauce here. It's those that have done the work over a period of time that we're seeing succeed now. I guess a slight point to the side of that is that a lot of organizations now are changing the way that they work with startups. So corporate innovation through things like corporate accelerators has been a very popular move over the last 5 to 6 years. However, what we're seeing now is a far more balanced approach to the relationships there so that they are true partnerships. Previously, we saw corporates either look at startups as an opportunity for acquisition and a way to access a new market or a new customer segment. But we're seeing far more, balanced relationships between startups and corporates now. And I think that clearly shows that there's recognition of the value of startups and their ability to operate and change and pivot quickly.
Awesome. So you mentioned talent and people. And we all know that, and if you didn't know, there is a bit of a talent shortage around data analytics and digital skills. Joe, from the Victoria University kind of perspective, how might we deliver more graduates to fill this gap? And is starting at tertiary level starting too late? Should we be selling data as the sexiest role in business to high schoolers?
I think that might be a bit of a hard sell. But
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, it's quite interesting because, you know, pre-2020, pre-COVID, there really was the mindset of the hacker, or, the digital person with the hood on, and a lot of that's been displaced. I mean, that's certainly changing. I know a lot of organisations that had marketing campaigns with a hoodie, around digital. I mean, they've changed their whole campaign. So I think, in 2020, so many people that thought they couldn't embrace digital skills, they just had to. So whether it's learning, whether it's how we do business, I mean, some people haven't been back in the office for a year and a half. They've worked remotely, and so it's interesting. In terms of addressing the talent shortage, educating in data analytics and digital skills can start at any age. 99% of young children aged 15 to 17 are online, making this group the highest users. So there really is no such thing as starting too early. There's probably three main categories that I see, or strategies to address, training from the ground up, attracting talent from other industries. They don't have to have always been, in digital careers. They can pivot, and, upskilling again from other areas. So, for us, we work closely with the Wyndham Tech School, which focuses on, years 7 to 12 students. Students and teachers go in there, they explore technology, it activates their curiosity, challenges how they think. And anything that, as David was saying earlier, that growth mindset, like to encourage that at an early age is really important, because that leads to an increase and a lack of fear around data analytics and digital skills. Like I had staff, in 2019 that might have thought that they couldn't handle digital skills, or, it was, setting up a Zoom meeting, or, whereas now it's just second nature to everyone. We just wouldn't be able to survive without it. So I think starting at a young age is a really positive thing. And also attracting talent from other industry. You don't have to be, an IT guru when it comes to digital skills. We've got students that have pivoted from, 2020, they might have lost their jobs in hospitality. They've moved across, they've studied the Certificate 4 in Cyber, which currently the Victorian government have got an initiative that it's on the free TAFE program list. So they've studied, they've had no exposure to anything digital before. They might have worked in a cafe, and they've pivoted, studied for a year, upskilled, and then it really is that mindset, that curious mind, and then they've gone out in industry, and taken on a new role. So that's sort of, and it's an exciting time for everyone at the moment, I think. And then with upskilling from other areas, there might be people in organisations that haven't had exposure, and just, so you might have an employee that's already, understands the organisation, but they don't have that digital literacy or that data analytics side. Train them up in that, put them through a program, educate them. So I think there's a lot of emphasis. The one thing that we hear a lot is the emphasis on that soft skills, or, that non-technical knowledge. And the other thing as well is that, the governance, risk and compliance side of it, whether it's, data, whether it's digital skills, whether it's cybersecurity, they're not just technical roles that there's a talent shortage. It's the governance and the risk and the compliance side of it that's, there's a lot of growth. So, the one thing I'd say to people that are, that I talk to a lot that are thinking about studying, a digital transformation career or cybersecurity, just challenge yourself. You don't know until you try. None of us would have thought a year and a half ago we'd be sitting here in a Zoom meeting with however many people and, conducting our business and everything we do remotely online. So, yeah, just challenge yourself.
Awesome. I know from industry's perspective, one of the biggest skills that analytics leaders are looking for when they're hiring talent is curiosity. And also the trying to add some diversity to the current pool of analytics people. So typically it sits at around 30%. We do a analytics leaders event every year, and this year for the first time it was at 40%. So for the issues of ethics and bias and things like that, diversity is kind of really important. And we also know that in high school that the take up of maths with girls goes down while it stays constant or goes up with boys. So if you're a woman and interested in analytics, can I just say, please follow your passion and get involved, because there is a real need in terms of ensuring algorithms and the AI and everything else that we, underpin those kinds of things, all the analytics there. It's really important that we have a very diverse set of voices that are feeding into all of those things. So training, such as you were talking about there, is really important. So there's a couple of questions from the audience, which is awesome. So now I can either read these out or you can come off mute and ask yourself. Connie, I think yours is more of a statement than a question, talking about us not selling data for data's sake, but for a greater purpose. So data for good, because that will appear to students coming through. That's very much, purpose is very much the thing that seems to attract the younger generation. So valid.
Yeah,
sorry. No, you go.
Oh, do you want me to go? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, because I have never really been, I was a teacher originally, so data was very important when you were teaching and things like that for business as well. But recently for me, even more so, because I've moved more into the digital marketing space a lot more over the years. So that's, for me, really important. And it's more about the purpose. We're a purpose-led brand. So I don't see it as a separate thing just for the sake of data. It has to have meaning for my business. So I'm assuming that a lot of small businesses would also have that approach as well. So I think connecting as much purpose and the greater picture will assist them to say, okay, I've really got to do this. You may not want to do this, but it might give them a real reason to, to go that way. Because I wasn't expecting to be in this area myself. So it's been led by, other reasons. So that could be another way to market and to approach small businesses. That's what I'd say.
And I'd add, don't be scared.
And I can just jump in on what Connie is saying. And my thoughts were actually very, very similar, Connie. I think it's for a lot of people, whether you're trying to get into this space or you're already running a business and you're wondering what to do with data, it's not a separate thing. It's not like you have to now do data. It's like, what am I trying to do in my business? What's the good I'm trying to do? What's the benefit I'm trying to provide to people, and how might I use data for that? And I think that's absolutely the more powerful way to frame it. Yeah.
And I think the mind shift, because when we think of data, it's also, data can come from your relationships. It could come from a conversation. And for me, it's been the mind shift. Okay, it's coming from another source. So for me to make that connection, because you can have that data information or the intuition coming through, but now it's more concrete maybe, or you can see it in a different format. So mine is like I'm on a bit of a spectrum. I'm transitioning along. Yeah.
Awesome. Elisabeth Hare asks, what can organisations that face employee resistance to change and innovation do to overcome it?
I'm happy to jump in on that one. I think the succinct answer to that is it's how you communicate that change and how you train that change. So organisations that have challenges and resistance to innovation typically either aren't communicating to their teams well, or they're not, consistently demonstrating that change through leadership and also through training and development. So I think that's the succinct answer, but happy for any other contributions there.
I was just going to add to that and say one thing we find, we deal with organisations that, are looking at how do we pivot, how do we upskill our existing, employees, and we often find it's just breaking it down. Quite often it is just, the employees might find it overwhelming. I don't understand it. It's new, and it's more a bit of an OB thing, is that change. Often people aren't good with change. So breaking it down and siloing it, we found helps get them over that hurdle that they've got.
Yeah, Rupert, you're probably expertly positioned to weigh in on this topic in terms of what are the best ways to find the people that you might need, and what should we be looking for if we are looking for people externally?
Yeah, thanks, Annette. Marketing communication roles right now they're in significant high demand across the board. But I guess the key area of focus actually goes back onto the employer when mapping out a plan for getting the right talent on board and nutting out that business communication strategy. Who do you exactly want to reach? What do you want to say? And then the supporting skills and experience required to execute the plan. There's what candidates right now are looking. They're being very particular. They're going through it with a fine-tooth comb and looking for a clear business plan, not just for the next 12 months, but a 3 to 5 year business plan. And that's what's attracting them about the exciting challenge, what's ahead. Everyone knows what's happened in the last 18 months, but it's about how businesses are reacting from that and changing. Everyone's had to change, but changing the way that their business is moving forward. So, to make process changes, the next 3 to 5 years, you need to be competitive firstly. And also employers need to have an understanding that, it is an aging workforce, especially here in Victoria. And what's the plan moving forward? The transition from plan moving people internally up and bringing new fresh eyes in. New product development is key. A lot of candidates we speak to, they're asking, okay, what's next? This is where they're at now, but what is next? But in bringing in new talent as well, employers also should look at the establishing who they've actually got on their books already and looking to grow and develop and train their employees to further upskill. Joe mentioned earlier, upskilling, it's crucial, and the transferable skills as well, bringing in new people from different industries, it's more important now. From a lot of employers are looking for that 10 out of 10 or 11 out of 10 candidate, when it really, in the current environment, when it's so competitive and there's a lot of roles out there and we're lacking, the talent pool's lacking in size, getting that 8 or 9 out of 10 candidate is quite crucial. And also, I guess you can't assume that skills are always available on call when you go to market. So as they're in high demand, when you're ready, you've got to kind of go. You can't wait. And people will definitely won't hang around in a slow recruitment process. You've got to move very quickly in the current marketplace. So
is like we've talked about culture and purpose and those kinds of things. Does that and you actually mentioned marketing and communications, do organizations actually need to start marketing themselves to candidates as much as marketing themselves to customers?
For sure. The interview recruitment process is not, the days of a candidate selling themselves to employees or throughout the interview process are really gone. It's not a one-way street anymore. Clients are really having to sell their own strategy and view on what's moving forward and how they attack the plan in the especially the 3 to 5 year strategy. So it's definitely a candidate driven and heavy market. They're the ones that are holding the key throughout the processes, and the ones that really get to make the call at the end of the day. That's where the market's at the moment. So Joe mentioned earlier about bringing in more talent, especially from a young age, and upskilling from a young age. It's more prevalent at the moment. It's a lot of what happened last year with a lot of people being made redundant. The strong talent pool are actually in roles still. So that's what employers and clients are aware of. So attracting talent who are in roles, it's difficult because what happened was with the employers that kept people on, they've wrapped their arms around them, and they've boosted their morale, given them flexible working arrangements, the culture they've built internally. I know Darrell mentioned earlier, culture is key. Right now, it's probably one of the first 2-3 questions we get asked: what's the culture internally? And if there's any red flags, it's virtually, you'll lose a candidate. So working on your culture and your strategy moving forward to attracting the right talent is quite key.
Awesome. Now, I'm thinking we're about on time. Chris, can you give me some guidance in terms of when we're meant to finish?
We're slightly over, but if people are happy to continue for another 5 or 10.
Okay, because I've got a doozy of a question for the panel and they haven't seen it yet, so this will be fun. So what can people do with a maximum of $200 tomorrow to try and either start or accelerate their journey in terms of digital data and all of that kind of good stuff? So Elisabeth.
Thanks.
So let me tell you one thing. Let me go first, and then it gives you thinking time. Okay. So I would say get out your Excel, learn how to use a pivot table, and just start having a look at the data that you've got, just to see what might actually be sitting there just waiting, a trend that is waiting to be exposed. All right, Elisabeth.
Yes, I think actually I would invest that time on, if you've got a casual or a part-timer, give them a few extra hours to do just that, to go through, look at what the number one thing is you need. Do you need to make it easier for people to get information about you on the website, or to connect with people, or to set up a marketing email list? Or is it you need to understand where the hell your money's been coming from for the last 12 months so you can go forward on it? But yeah, I actually think putting that money into a person, if you've got someone kicking around who can pull up a few extra hours, and just ask them to figure out something for you. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Darrell.
Yeah, bad luck, Elisabeth, getting pinged there. Look, there's a bit of a plug for you, Chris, but you could it won't even cost you $200. Give the Data Analytics Hub a call. We've been involved in a number of projects with the students where they are placed in businesses to give them a start. And so keep your $200 and look at whether there is an opportunity to use some of those students to help you make that start. Good for you, good for them, and we've seen some really good outcomes from the ones we've been involved with.
Awesome, and some real world experience for them. So that's a really huge bonus.
Some really smart cookies coming through there. So worth your while.
Awesome. Joe, what do you think?
Well, I think Darrell sort of picked me at the post, because I was thinking of creating a competition for data analytics students, like putting forward, from an organisation, what a challenge is, or, and getting that externally. So putting together a competition and saying, the winner who can, and I've heard of people doing things like that. Say you might have a design problem. It was architecture that I'd heard, they'd put a problem out to an architecture cohort to say, can someone design this? And the prize is $200. And they had fantastic results. So kind of adopting that thought and having it, and whether it is through the Data Analytics Hub or, depending on the organisation, they might have people internally that can do it, but, kind of getting people interested that way. Probably $200 is more appealing to students rather than.
Yep.
So that was kind of my thinking.
Awesome. Rupert, what do you think?
I was actually going to go similar to what Darrell and Joe said, but no, I'll do something a little bit different.
First mover advantage.
I'll think from an employer perspective, because I'm working with a couple of clients at the moment that ask similar questions, how to start or what to do to get moving. I would I'll come back to the training and upskilling, and using the $200 for employee on a within a team, or even a graduate employee just among the books, to put them through an online training course with one of the universities, or just use it as a training a platform. If there's an employee that's wanting to learn more and wanting to upskill further, that's where I'd invest. Once you've got the energy of someone wanting to grow and learn and develop further, you give them the chance to get to do that.
Awesome. Okay, David, lucky last.
Well, I feel like I've got last mover advantage. As each response has gone along, I've tick, tick, tick. And gold star for Darrell there as well. But look, I think the only thing that probably hasn't been said is to probably purchase a low-cost smart device, and you can access all of the free education in the world, and get access to all of that data and information and open source data. But yeah, look, echo the sentiments of the rest of the panel. It's about just getting out there, accessing information. One other option is possibly to outsource some capability in presenting the data that you already have, so you can communicate that internally and externally as well. But some great responses from the panel.
Awesome. And I'll also add, for no cost, become a subscriber of IAPA, and you will get access to webinars and articles and papers and various other things. And one of the best ways to learn is to be involved in the community. So, part of it is just get involved, do something, and you'll get excited, and then that will fuel you to move forward. Glenys, thank you. Also, upskill staff through free TAFE, doing advanced diploma or diploma of accounting or cyber or engineering, or all the other wonderful things that you could possibly do through TAFE. So there's another option that you could do. So Chris, I'm not quite sure how I hand back to you, but I think we're at that point.
Well, look, I thank you, Annette, on behalf of all of us, for brilliantly chairing that panel, and what a great discussion that was. And thank you to all of you for attending today. And again, another very enlightening Digital Innovation Festival session. I'd like to thank our speakers, our panellists, and our partners, and they're up on the screen at the moment. They've helped make the Data Analytics Hub what it is today. And I think in terms of the $200 question, Darrell was right on the money. One of the things you can do is come to the Data Analytics Hub and see if you can actually get the services of some willing students to basically start you on that journey. And that's a journey many dozens of businesses have undertaken in the North and West so far. So again, thank you all for coming today. I look forward to seeing you around Melbourne's North and Melbourne's West, and participating in future hub activities and events. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.
Bye.